It's an illness we know so little about. There are spasms that are impossible to control. You know how people often jump up in the night because of a cramp in the leg or in the calf. It's a bit like that, but in all muscles. Claudette also shared that these debilitating symptoms are no longer treatable and said there's little we can do to support her, to alleviate her pain. But Celine's family is still not losing hope and said they're all crossing their fingers that researchers will find a remedy for this awful illness. Claudette also said that besides her family, Celine also finds comfort in knowing there are so many people all over the world who love her and who are hoping they will get to hear her sing live again. They love Celine not only for the voice she has, but also for the human being she is, for the woman she has become, for the mother she has become. We love her for the person she is. We sure do. And we're joining all the fans who are now leaving comments of support on social media and sharing just how devastated they were to hear that Celine is dealing with so much pain. Like this one fan wrote, "Celine Dion is an icon. It's heart-wrenching that she's been diagnosed with this one-in-a-million condition. I hope they find treatments that keep her comfortable. Her career has been massive. Her voice is among the greatest of all time, and her kind heart and one-of-a-kind personality have endeared her to millions of people for decades. She doesn't deserve this. She is also a fighter, and I hope she gets better ASAP." And another fan said, "I pray for a miracle, and I truly hope she knows how loved she is by all of us. Celine Dion's voice and singing got me through a lot of good and bad times in my life. Dear God, please comfort her and take away her pain. Give her and her family strength to get through this. Heal our Celine Dion." To be honest with you guys, this is one of the saddest things I've heard in a while. And it really makes you think how life is unfair. That someone like Celine, who's brought joy to so many people with her songs, has now had this ability taken away from her in such a cruel way. But let me know what you think about this and share your messages for Celine in the comments. Keep Celine in your prayers, and let's keep our fingers crossed that a miracle will happen and that Celine will get back on stage one day. Steve also recently implied in an interview that Lori made the right choice by dumping MBJ. And rumors are going around that Marjorie meddled in Lori's relationship because MBJ wanted Lori to sign a prenup. And Marjorie said, "Hell no." While sources close to MBJ are now saying that Michael always thought Steve's relationship advice was a bunch of BS because he allows Marjorie to walk all over him. Also, knowing what we now know about Steve's history and how he did both his ex-wives dirty because of Marjorie, well, sorry to this man. Karma may be slow, but it's never late. So how does Michael B. Jordan feel about his cheating scandal involving Marjorie? Let's get into it. That was the mentality. Always been. I wasn't waiting on nobody to give me anything. In recent weeks, explosive reports have been circulating online that Steve Harvey's wife of 16 years, Marjorie, may have cheated on him with their household staff. Several sources claimed that Marjorie engaged in affairs, one allegedly with Steve's bodyguard, Big Boy, and another with Steve's personal chef. Meanwhile, rumors also started swirling that Michael B. Jordan, Lori Harvey's ex, always held doubts about Steve and Marjorie's supposedly ideal marriage. MBJ apparently believed that the dating advice Steve and Marjorie were giving Lori was insincere. Insiders familiar with the dynamics of the Harvey family suggest that Marjorie played a role in shaping Lori's cold and calculated approach to dating. But given Marjorie's history, this recent development isn't shocking at all. While Marjorie Harvey is now living the high life, before she met Steve, her life was considerably less lavish, to say the least. Marjorie and Steve's paths initially crossed in 1990 at a comedy club, and Steve later described it as love at first sight. But after a few weeks of dating, Steve and Marjorie decided to part ways. And Steve later alluded that Marjorie dumped him because his money wasn't right yet. However, their paths crossed again in 2005, and this time Steve had achieved success with The Steve Harvey Show, which prompted Marjorie to reconsider their relationship. Now, I want to point out that Steve was coming out of his second marriage to Mary Shackelford at this point, and Mary alleged that Steve had been unfaithful to her with Marjorie while they were still married. And according to Mary, Steve took their son, Winton, with him and turned him against her while also using his money and influence to manipulate the legal system. He took my Winton from me. He turned my son against me, had me evicted from our house, thrown out all the businesses, all the money, the cars, at a moment when I was down. I was down and devastated. He maneuvered everything. He maneuvered manipulated the courts, everything against me. However, it's widely thought that Marjorie orchestrated this entire scheme and persuaded Steve to cut all ties with Mary. In fact, Mary recently directly called out Marjorie for her manipulative actions and claimed that Marjorie deliberately undermined her relationship with Winton. I know that as a mother, if I was ever in a position where I had to be in charge of somebody else's child, I'd definitely make sure they have a great relationship with that child. But I just don't see how Marjorie, in particular, can call herself a mother to her own children and deliberately try to sabotage my relationship with my son. I don't really get that because personally, even if it was a vengeance vendetta thing, it's like who did harm to who. But see, Marjorie's questionable actions started long before she became Mrs. Harvey. Before meeting Steve, Marjorie had been married twice. Her first marriage was to drug kingpin Jim Townsend, and Marjorie's alleged involvement in her husband's illegal activities drew the attention of the FBI and DEA. Allegedly, these agencies informed Jim that unless he cooperated with them, Marjorie would face her own set of charges due to the substantial evidence of her own illegal activities. Jim then agreed to collaborate with the authorities and was eventually indicted for trying to purchase 40 kilos of cocaine. He was sentenced to a life prison term and served over 26 years before receiving a pardon from President Obama in 2017. Marjorie, on the other hand, managed to avoid legal consequences, and she divorced Jim within 5 years of his imprisonment. Shortly after her divorce from Jim, Marjorie and Darnell Woods, who also happened to be involved in drug dealing. Despite these circumstances, Marjorie went on to marry Darnell in the early 2000s, and they welcomed one child, Lori. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.